Hey, this is Doc Eric. Welcome to my YouTube neighborhood, the channel where we give you one mindset tip and one body set, typically rolled into one these days. And we like to give you these tips not only to take with you throughout today's video, but also later in life as well. Today we're going to be talking about HIIT training and LIIT training, which is high intensity interval training and low intensity interval training. So let's go ahead and get started. So when we're talking about HIIT training and LIIT training, typically what we're looking at is it through the lens of body composition and strength gains. A lot of people are choosing to these popular types of exercises, and they're finding a ton of videos online is because they're highly effective, because they are short windows of exercise, sometimes as short as 10 or 15 minutes. They give you a very high intensity workout as well as caloric burn, and it also helps to sculpt and define some muscles, but this is also provided that you're paying attention to your nutrition. So as it pertains to high intensity interval training, typically this is a workout that could be as short as 10 or 15 minutes, and typically you're burning through carbohydrate stores as the fuel source, just due to the rapid contraction and relaxation of the muscle tissues. Muscle tissues contain glycogen, which is their preferred fuel source. So if you're doing one of these high intensity workouts, that's the fuel that your body's burning through. So in terms of the HIIT training, you're burning the most calories when you're doing this particular type of workout. Another one is your medium intensity interval training, or MIIT. MIIT training is typically what most of us are actually doing, even though we think we're doing HIIT training, because the intensity of HIIT training should be such that you can barely catch your breath after the break round, and then you go back into the workout. So by the time you've done a 10 or 15 minute workout, you should literally feel exhausted. If you find that by the time you've hit the end of your workout and you're feeling sweaty but you're not exactly exhausted, then you probably did more MIIT training, but you're still getting a great calorie burn and you're still burning carbohydrates as your primary fuel source. So not a bad choice either. That's typically the one that I choose to do myself, and I find it very, very effective. Low intensity interval training, or LISS, which is typically low intensity steady state, is typically more of your lower impact exercises where there's not a lot of jumping around and you're doing something for a prolonged period of time. So this could be something 20 minutes up to maybe an hour or even beyond. When you're doing a steady state type of exercise that's low intensity, typically you're going to be using more fat as your body's preferred fuel source because you're keeping your heart rate at a relatively low level. This is a perfect exercise for somebody who's got a little bit more time on their hands, or somebody who may be a little bit older, or somebody who may have a bad joint like a hip or a knee that can't tolerate the high intensity delivery system of a HIIT workout or a MIIT workout. Some of the benefits of choosing a high intensity interval workout or a medium intensity interval workout are: you're going to get an increased calorie burn, but you're not going to be able to do these workouts typically on a back-to-back day because the body's going to need time to rest and recover. So if you find that you are one of those people who are doing the HIIT training and at the end of the week you're kind of breaking down, or your form is getting sloppy, or you're starting to notice some new aches and pains that you didn't have before, that means your body may not be fully recovered from the previous session. So you may want to choose to insert a recovery day with something like maybe like a yoga, or something like a LIIT or LISS training, which is your low intensity steady state or your low intensity interval training. In terms of body composition, it depends on what you want from your body. I like to use the analogy of a sprinter versus a marathon runner. If you want to look like a sprinter, you have to train how a sprinter trains, which is a lot of high intensity exercise, and they typically do a lot of resistance training with heavy weight. If you're somebody who wants to be more of a marathon runner, that's going to be more like your LISS training, so you're going to slow things down a little bit. You're not going to have as well sculpted or defined muscle tissues, but you're still going to have an improved cardiovascular system and a good body composition as well. So the next point is, how do you choose between high intensity interval training, medium intensity interval training, or the low intensity steady state or low intensity interval training exercises? So this is a great question. So it's ultimately going to depend upon what you have time for and what you actually like to do. If you're somebody who has the space and the time and multiple exercise-related equipment such as dumbbells or jump rope or anything else that these classes online require, that might be something that's in your wheelhouse. If you live in an apartment building with very, very thin walls and ceilings, it may not be the best choice of exercise for you, and you may have to do something maybe outside or find a gym that has a socially distanced capacity to handle those loads. And another question is it okay to alternate between these 3 exercises? And the answer, of course, is yes, right? You want to make sure that your body gets diversity. You don't want to always train the same muscles over and over and over again, because that's going to lead to overtraining and the potentially for increased risk of injury. If you're somebody who's looking to maintain muscle mass and you want to do different types and styles of workouts, you want to do your resistance training first, and then you want to follow that up with cardio second, and not the other way around. So let's say, for example, you're somebody who's attending a socially distanced gym and you have to decide between doing the treadmill first or doing the heavy leg day session with weights. You want to do the session with the leg day first with the weights first, and then you want to follow that up with your steady state cardio to kind of get a bit of an additional calorie burn. The reason being is you want to make sure that your muscle tissues that are going to be lifting those heavy loads are prepared from the get-go so that you have lower risk of injury and better chance for optimizing your performance. After the workout's done, the muscle tissues are warmed up, they've gone through their routine, and the low impact cardio is going to help you with calorie burning, but also make sure that the muscle tissues remain safe. Another thing is a lot of people are starting to notice that as they take on these high intensity interval classes and these medium intensity interval classes, that the scale's going down, but they're also noticing that they're losing a little bit of weight. And that's usually in the form of muscle mass if they find that the body composition is preserved. Some people are concerned about this because they're not lifting the big heavy weights. So there's many programs that you can look at online that do have a body weight resistance program that will allow you to at least slow down or minimize the process of losing your muscles in the absence of going to the gym and lifting relatively heavy weights. If you're somebody who's doing a ton of steady state cardio or going for runs and jogs every single day, you will be going through and leaning out in terms of utilizing some of your muscle mass. So don't forget to make sure that when you're eating, to eat adequate amounts of protein evenly spread out throughout the day. Roughly 1 pound per gram of body weight or 1 pound per gram of lean body weight mass, depending upon the literature that you follow, is a good placeholder. So if you're somebody who weighs 180 pounds and would love to get down to about 170 pounds, you can go with protein roughly between either of those ranges. So as low as 170, about as high as 180, and that's going to help to minimize your body's catabolism of the protein in terms of breaking down its own muscle mass. So there you have it. We talked about HIIT training, we talked a little bit about MIIT training, and then we talked a little bit about LIIT or LISS training as well. So hopefully you guys found those educational, and hopefully you're trying out at least 1, 2, or all 3 of those. They're all great. You're going to have fun with all of them. And don't forget, there's a ton of YouTube videos that you can check out online, or you can direct message me, and I can provide you some links with ones that I recommend that I think are good for most people's fitness levels, so that you don't have to buy a ton of equipment, and you can pretty much do it from the comfort of your own home or your living space. And as always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. We love it when we get new YouTube visitors to this channel. That helps the channel grow, and it also helps me provide new and fresh content for you guys. So if you have any questions, comments, you can drop them down in the comment section below. But other than that, as always, stay healthy.